Thomas is a busy and cheery engine as he puffs and huffs across the island. He always toots hello to other engines and to children along the way, even when Thomas is pulling heavy loads. One morning, Thomas puffed into Brendam Docks. Sir Topham Hatt was waiting. Hank puffed into the docks. Hank was very special. He had red wheels and a bright red cowcatcher, and he was very tall. The engines had never seen an engine like Hank before. Thomas buffered up to the machine cars. Hank chuffed alongside. Thomas didn't like being called little. Thomas thought Hank was being cheeky. Hank meant to be helpful, but it made Thomas cross. But Thomas was already puffing out of the docks. At the signal, Thomas didn't take the track to the factory. He chuffed straight to the quarry. Thomas pulled ahead. He huffed to himself. Thomas and Hank puffed into the quarry. Hank was surprised. So Thomas heaved and huffed out of the quarry. Thomas wheezed and wheeshed. Handsome Hank gleamed and glowed by his side. Children waved from bridges. Thomas hadn't the puff to whistle hello. Hank had plenty of puff. This made Thomas feel even crosser. Thomas pulled up to the halt. He was nearly out of puff. And the tractor was coupled up to the end of Thomas's freight cars. Thomas huffed and he puffed. His wheels spun and spun. But Thomas was determined to pull the train on his own. Wheel turn by wheel turn, Thomas puffed away. Thomas and Hank arrived at Marin Station. Visitors waved at Thomas. Thomas wanted to whistle back, but he hadn't any spare steam. Hank had lots of steam, and Hank blew the longest and loudest whistle. Then there was trouble. Thomas had cracked a cylinder. The train was much too heavy. Hank and Thomas dropped off Farmer McCull's tractor. The workmen were very sorry to see Thomas had broken down. Next, Hank and Thomas chuffed into the shunting yards. The yard manager was waiting. The stone cars were uncoupled. Finally, Thomas and Hank delivered the new machines to the factory. Hank pushed Thomas back to Knapford Station. They arrived just in time for the party. Hank smiled. Thomas smiled. Hank was very special. He was a very special new friend.